Do you see this face? I'm disappointed. Why? Because Netflix never makes good shows. But there is two different shows that I'll talk about separately that I find very appealing and enjoyable to watch. The one I'll talk about today is called Alice in Borderland. You follow a character named Otosu who's basically a game-obsessed freak, and he just games all the time. He has two best friends who he occasionally hangs out with pretty much most of his life, and they all seem pretty miserable. In the first episode, they all have their own kind of storylines. Otosu, he's just kind of this obsessed, like I said, obsessed gamer. He just can't stop playing Call of Duty pretty much. He is scolded by his family for pretty much being the weak link. Most people can understand how this feels because this is pretty much most of the world right now. A lot of us are gamers, and some of us are kind of scolded for being that way. In this story, Otosu ends up leaving the house and says he's homeless because, well, dude's trying to, make up an excuse to get out of the house, I guess. The father really just wants Otosu to just get a job, start working, be productive. And his two best friends, one of them, I forgot what their names are, but one of them is a bartender, and he ends up getting fired because he kissed his girlfriend. He kissed the manager's girlfriend, my bad. It's deserved, but hey, he got that W. She clearly was, she was down bad for him. But the third character, it's explicitly clear that he's a money pig to his mother. He gets money out of his account and he gives it to her, and she exclaims that, thank you, I'm sorry that I have to make you do this all the time. And he tells her that this got to be the last time, I'm going to end up broke, and she gets mad at him. So you can tell that this character has a struggling relationship with his mother. It's not really important, but it does come in later episodes on why this is the case. As for the other guy, he's kind of just chilling. He's the smart one of the friendship. They all three come together and start texting on their phone. And how they did this for the show, for the screening, like they're all walking simultaneously while just texting each other, and like it's always on a sidebar right next to them. It's really cool and unique. I like that concept. And when they come together, they make a conversation about surviving the apocalypse, at least zombie apocalypse. The dude with the orange shirt, the one who's closest to Otosu, tells him that he'd be the one to survive. He would not lose to that kind of world. And Otosu's shocked by that because, he's good for nothing. He's just a gamer. And after them just chilling out for a bit, the friend just picks him up and starts running him around the city. He's like, "Woo, let's go!" And immediately gets into trouble because they're in a damn street. Where's my brain going at? Goes to the street and they start having to run away because I guess they almost caused an accident with one of the cars, and police officers or security guards, I'm assuming, were sent out to go handle the situation, and they run to the bathrooms. This is where the story starts. They go in the bathroom, they joke about who's farting, and then immediately the lights start flickering and everything goes dark. They're confused. And when they get outside, everyone, it's so cool how they did this, because they had all these people around the area, and especially when the friend was carrying Otosu, everyone was pointing and waving, giving him the good charm. But immediately, not even 5 minutes in the movie, they slowly pace outside, and I love how they did this because it emphasizes the seriousness in the situation. They get out there and there's no one. Cars are just randomly in the street and they're just alone. No other soul in the city, even though it was just populated like wildfire. So they start going to their own respected places. The first guy goes to his job and doesn't find the girl there, so he obviously becomes upset. And then the second friend, he ends up going to his job and none of his coworkers are there. But Otosu, interestingly enough, doesn't go back home. He literally explores the depths of the city, which I believe is important for his character because he doesn't doesn't clarify that he cares much about his family. It's definitely a sign that he's truly alone. He doesn't have anyone except his friends. Before I get into the nitty-gritty of how this whole world works, we're going to emphasize how it all begins. So the three boys are joking around, and the three boys come back and they start talking. They're saying there's really no one else here. We got to make sure we got to find food and to survive and whatnot. But for some reason, they start becoming happy. Arisu says, you know what? This isn't so bad. We have the whole place to ourselves. And they all start screaming. And this is where the game begins. I'm saying game explicitly because this is basically Squid Game, but better. I'm going to be honest, I enjoyed Squid Game because of all these poor people are participating in a game that they can win millions of dollars in an instant as long as they play these 6 different challenges. And each person that dies, it's added to the pool of money. So it's basically just capitalism, to be honest. Not even capitalism. It's just, it's silly to say that because what Squid Game did revolutionized a lot of stuff, especially the song. It was everywhere on TikTok, sometimes on YouTube Shorts. It was everywhere. I enjoyed Squid Game just because it was a situation where these people have to play games to survive. That was basically the main concept. It was to survive and win all that bread. Obviously, you want to win that. But to me, I'm going to be honest, the reason why this isn't one of my top shows on Netflix is just because it's very messed up. None of this would work because people, that's kind of the point of the movie. You're supposed to differentiate from reality. But unfortunately, the whole scenario just didn't feel right for one reason. They are allowed to vote if they wish to not play, and they can go back to their homes. The reason why I have a problem with this is because if you're forcing these people to play a game and you're insisting they do, why would you give them a choice? Why would you want that? And I'm going to spoil this from the get-go of what happens. It turns out that the people who were on the high ranks are actually putting stakes on people, saying, oh, I want that guy to survive. I'll put $1 million on him. It's monopolizing it, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's a story, and it's interesting. Unfortunately, though, the fact that they're able to choose to leave would very in the real world would happen. No one would agree to go back in that game, even though all that money is on the line, because in the middle of the show, everyone does agree to go home, but they all still come back. I think some people do stay, but again, this is a show where they're given a choice. So it doesn't make sense because they're desperate. They need it. So obviously the whole point is to bring them back. But you need that audience so that those higher-ups can put stakes on these people. Why would you risk that? Because I'm pretty sure those people would have you killed for that. They want the games. They very clearly want this to happen. Where Alice in Borderland stands is these people are put in this world where they have to play games. When Arisu and his friends go to their first game, I'm going to spoil at least this one so you get the general idea. There's 5 of them. They meet a new girl who they never knew existed, and they're like, huh, who is this? She's the only other human being around that they've seen, and she emphasizes that they're in a game, they're about to participate in the game, and that they better just stick to what they better be serious about this so that they could survive. She immediately grabs, I think, the boy who had a job, fucking lanyard, and throws it where they went in, and the lasers through this corridor zapped it. So she exclaims that you can't leave once you're in the game. This is important because what this emphasizes is once you participate, you cannot leave. The question that I've asked a lot, especially when I first ever watched it, is will they have to participate in future games from the first ever game they start? Could they just walk the world forever and never have to participate? That was kind of the question I had in my mind, but it's not going to be really answered because there's really no reason for it. The fact that these people, once they participate in a game, they have to live it to the fullest. After surviving this game, which pretty much they had to choose between life and death. When choosing the correct door, they get to continue, and then they can progress so that they can get out of there. But if they choose the wrong door, they're immediately murdered. The girl ends up panicking because they're running out of time in this room, and there's a gas which basically is flammable. It's gonna fucking burn them alive. and she bursts open the door of life and just gets zapped, and the door closes. It's very sudden, and they immediately all dash to the other door. Now they're trying to find a reason to escape. And this is where Arasu is an important character. Obviously, he's the main. He has this mentality of a genius in this game because he goes based out of a damn car on how, like, where they are in the building and how to escape. Post glitchy here, I forgot to mention that Arasu seen a map entering the elevator for their first game and went by that the rooms are squared. So he goes do this like fucking mathematic genius here, starts calculating how big the rooms are and which way they can go to get to the exit. Once they escape, they get the notification on these phones they received from the start that they survived, and they are congrats with a playing card. These are important because they signify the challenge and the difficulty. I gotta remember these. Clubs is intelligent, so you have to basically be strategic in a lot of your decisions. There's clubs, spades are team effort games, I believe. Diamonds are team battles? I can't even remember. Most of it's confusing, but the important one is hearts. Hearts is the portrayal, where it plays with the characters' hearts to get a victor. Essentially, they get 3 days to take a break from their first game, and this is kind of where they're forced to play. And that's why when I asked the question, if like not participating their first ever game, will they have to do it, or will they... I don't know. That's kind of what I asked myself, especially after this. But essentially, they beat the game and they get 3 days. And this 3 days is a ticking time bomb. If they do not participate in a game within that time frame, they are dead. They don't get to continue. It's a concept that obviously is stressful for a lot of people. Some individuals I've met have told me that they don't like the show just because it's too violent. I get that. And also, it's a show where it kind of pushes the limit with like your heartstrings, and that's kind of the point of the heart games. They're supposed to do it that way. And this is the reason why I've enjoyed Alice in Borderland as a whole, is just because of the fact that they try. They want you to understand that this is a situation where these players are put on the line, and they have to survive. They have to play a game to continue. So there is a goal. It's to obviously stay alive. But for Arasu, he's thinking of who's making these games, who is the mastermind. So the goal is to figure out who has started this, because it feels very fixed. Like these people are being forced to play a game. So you'd imagine, as a Squid Game, maybe it's monopolizing them. I won't spoil too much because it technically does involve monopolizing these people, but it's much bigger than that because of Season 2. There is going to be a Season 3, which I'm very excited for. This is where I'm going to get into where this Netflix Netflix show came from. It's actually based off Alice in Borderland, the manga. It's anime. They pretty much live-actioned it, but this is how I first got into Alice in Borderland. I haven't read it yet, and I think I might take the time to do so just to appreciate the whole story structure in its canon universe, even though it's probably the same thing, but there is going to be subtle differences that I'm going to appreciate from the book than the actual show itself. But the show, the actors in it, they really put all their effort in the show. It's a really enjoyable experience because you really feel like you're in the shoes of the survivors, that you are put into such a dangerous game that is at risk of your life, and yet all these players have the same mindset. They have to participate. It's like if you're giving players a choice, it convolutes the story too much. This is where I go back to Squid Game, because in the probably second to last episode, I believe, where the main character ends up fighting his closest friend, and he almost remains the victor before he deals the final blow and says, "Let's just quit. Let's agree. We don't need to do this. I don't even want to hurt you." This is where that's where the storytelling of the survival goal kind of breaks, because There is a choice in Squid Game. If both those players did agree to not participate, the games would have ended. There would have been no victor and they would have been scot-free. It's so important to understand when you create a story, and if you're giving the characters a chance to survive without having to do anything in the main story, it kind of ruins the whole point of what you're trying to make. Because Squid Game, as a biased view of the show, I believe what they're trying to exclaim is people who are poor will do anything to survive, and the rich will monopolize off that. That's kind of what I got from watching Squid Game, which, again, I'm going to clarify, it is still a decent show, but it's not on the same par as Alice in Borderland. You're forced into a world where your only goal is to basically backstab most of anybody because you can't trust no one, and you have to do these random weird games, because it's not just kid games. It can be playing with people's lives. It can be tests like math and whatnot. I don't want to spoil too much because it's a really enjoyable show, and I think you should watch it if you like mystery and dark storytelling. Basically, it gives off the kind of Saw vibes, especially with one of the games. Now, I want to talk about 3 of my most favorite scenes, and I'm going to try to keep it as, like, the characters themselves. Arasu's most, like, nailed-on scene is the fact that he reminisces with his friends before the game they participated in, because it shows that he cares about his friends so much that he doesn't really regard his family. Like, he has a brother, but he never speaks to him like that. He just keeps playing video games. It seems like their worlds are completely different. Maybe season 2 will get into it, which would be great, but it was fine. My second favorite scene immediately is going to be Takeru. Takeru, which is the Mad Hatter. When I watch anything that relates to a certain like story, as it takes Alice in Borderland, I try to look for characters that have the same names as characters. Arasu is obviously Alice, like that's kind of like the whole play on word with his name. But Takeru, he doesn't have the Mad Hatter's name, but he is considered that because of how wacky and what he tries to emphasize on what their goal is. So when you meet this character, the Hatter, or Takeru, he pretty much tells the group they've been collecting all the cards from the games. This is why this is important. He says that if we collect all of them, there might be a chance to save a life. He doesn't emphasize how or why, but he does exclaim that there are face cards. There's obviously there's the kings and queens and jacks. It's clear that there's something going on that fits in the play of these playing cards. So it was a really good scene because it actually had a majority of the most important characters for leading up to season 2. And it's so subtle in how they place them that it almost feels like you're never going to see them again until the end of season 1. You get baffled on who the higher up is, and you realize, oh my god, they've been there the whole time. I probably just spoiled it for you, but you won't even be paying attention to most of it. Maybe. But that does depend if you can handle gore, especially if you're a smut fan. And then my third favorite scene is going to be instantly what's his name? Shuntaro. Shuntaro is my favorite character because how bafflingly ridiculous he is. My favorite scene has always been when he's in, it was the second game they participated with Arasu and his friend. He goes up to the top corner of the game area, and they're supposed to play hide and seek, which it really isn't hide and seek. Let's just be honest. He starts monologuing himself, saying all these players walking amok, either they're going to start teaming up or they're going to start singling each other out. Just so cool and mysterious. Reason why I like his introduction, and he still talks to himself through the entire game, he doesn't even move until the one part. It's just so good because he's this character that's so mysterious. and yet he obviously is present. So I link him to the Cheshire cat. He's just so insane because he doesn't make sense half of this he's saying. He's literally just monologuing not only to himself, but then when he starts talking to people, he talks in a certain way that doesn't make sense. So when Arisu starts to unlock the one door, Shintaro goes, "Are you gonna open it?" He doesn't do it himself. He very clearly tries to stick away from the influence for our main character, because every time he interacts with Arisu, he plays cryptic. He plays mind games with him, which is why Arisu and Shantaro's relationship was always on up and up from each other. It's just such a unique dynamic that I enjoyed. But the character alone is fun. I won't spoil anything of season 2, but he is the GOAT. He has survived probably way more than Arisu combined. Like, he just understands that he has a role here. He has a not a responsibility. That's a little bit much for this show, but he understands he's smart. He's not stupid, and he always keeps a straight face. That's the strongest suit of that character, and the actor who played, what's his name? Murakami. I really like him. It was a good pick because he really emphasized that character's role and why he's just so weird and odd. I guess my final note for this show as a Netflix live action, I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. I really like it just for the simple fact that it's a concept where it's restricting the players from escaping. It's a strange world too. I really like that because it just, like, everyone vanishes. And 3, the storytelling isn't amazing because it is very wacky when you want to understand what is going on with this universe, because everything's very sudden. Like, everything just changes in the first episode that it feels like you're just watching an entirely different show. I give it a 9 out of 10 for the fact that they're making a season 3. From what I'm understanding, there are 3 books in total of Alice in Borderland. The third one is a spin-off. It is canon, but I think it's canon, but it's kind of like future events after what happened in season 2, or at least book 2 of Alice in Borderland. I don't think they need to make a third one, but I guess they want to just close up the chapter for, like, all the stories for the books, so that's fair. But for me, we don't need any more remakes for stuff. I mean, if it's, like, already made, but you want to rehash it, leave it as is. Try to respect it, because nowadays, we're in a time where things are either remade, remake, or live actioned. A good example recently is there's a new Avatar live action show that popped up, and honestly, I've watched one episode, but I couldn't even understand what's going on, because after taking a glimpse of the actual cartoon show of Avatar, I don't even know his name. I gotta watch that. That's embarrassing. You guys are gonna slander me in the comments below. The main character he grows in a unique way where he's goofy, he's energetic, but he obviously wants to get strong enough to protect all his friends and the world. But I think the weird part that live actions do is they try to change something with the story or take certain parts out that are very important to understanding the characters that ruin the live action. Like, they go head first. This is a good cash grab. Let's make this happen. Alice in Borderland, to be honest, is a solid show that you can watch and enjoy for the entirety of the watch time. I believe it's like I'd say a day or two you could finish the show. I really believe it could take you under a day, just because if you just sit down and just watch the whole show, you could probably finish it before season 2 comes out. But I recommend. It's enjoyable. The next show that I'll talk about is Umbrella Academy, about 7 students who were adopted by one man. For Alice in Borderland, as a dark, drama, and it is a thriller just because there's a lot of like situations that are like, oh my god, these people gotta do something to survive. If you guys like the smut kind of stuff, this is a show you could watch. I enjoyed it just because it gave me Saw vibes, and obviously it's a Alice in Wonderland kind of storytelling. It's like, it's a different world. They fell into the rabbit hole. I hope you enjoyed. Stay glitchy.